here we go. All right, so first thing we're gonna do is we're just gonna watch this. It's very interesting.
With at least a college degree, see this. White women with at least a college degree, the only group of white voters that really kind of is on the left politically, aligned with progressive causes, democratic politics. Give you an example here. It's that DEI question, right here.
Very interesting.
That we asked about in our poll. We had two big statements we read to voters. Basically, do you want to continue DEI programs or do you think they should be ended? And again, look at this divide here. White men, no degree, end it. White men with a degree, end it, they say. White women, no degree, end it, they say, by double digits. And then white women with a college degree, completely different by a nearly 40-point margin. They say to continue DEI. See this. White.
Now, when you... It's very, very interesting. And there's a lot of people making a lot of assertions about, highly educated white women and how they're virtue signaling and all this other stuff. And while I may agree with the feeling that this is the case, that they are essentially using their politics to virtue signal, I do not believe that is the total of the argument. Like, that's not what is like mind controlling these individuals to make them do what they do, right? Any more than white men with no college degree lean toward Trump, right? It's more than just the one thing, right? But it is an interesting one. And here we go. So the Supreme Court has blocked the Trump administration from deporting foreign nationals under the Alien Enemies Act. So there is before the court an application on behalf of the punitive class of detainees seeking an injunction against their removal under the Alien Enemies Act. The matter is currently pending in the Fifth Circuit Court, and upon action by the Fifth Circuit Court, the Solicitor General is invited to file a response to the application before the court as soon as possible. The government is directed to not remove any member of the punitive class of detainees from the United States until further order of this court. Justice Thomas and Justice Alito dissent from the court's order. Statement from Alito to follow, which do we have the... Here we go. The court's ruling just came just as a conservative panel of the Fifth Court of Appeals dismissed an emergency effort to broadly block the administration from conducting summary deportations under the Alien Enemies Act. Now, there's an interesting caveat that's not immediately put at face value, is that an emergency effort to broadly block the administration... Okay, so they were trying to block them from basically deporting anybody. And they shot that shit down. Let's see. For a temporary administrative injunction, appeal is denied as premature. Authorities will not move their petitioners during this litigation. So who exactly are the petitioners? That's what I'm trying to find here. So it's before Ho, Wilson, and Ramirez, Circuit Judge, District of Texas. Who are they trying to put a potential second wave of deportations? So, okay. $1 a.m. order. Wow. From deporting a second wave of Venezuelan immigrants under the Alien Enemies Act after a lawyer rushed to the court and alleged the administration was about to send dozens or hundreds of detainees to El Salvador in defiance of an earlier ruling by the justices. In a brief order... Nice. Released about 1 a.m. Saturday, the court directed administration to temporarily halt any plan to deport a group of Venezuelan nationals who have been detained in northern Texas. Okay, so here we go. So they blocked them from deporting these guys. That's what they did. Justice Thomas and Alito dissented. Alito indicated he would issue further statement later. The High Court's order followed hours of frantic litigation involving courts in Texas, Louisiana, and Washington, D.C. as lawyers for the American Civil Liberties Union battled to stave off what they say appeared to be an imminent deportation of Venezuelan men the administration had gathered at an immigration detention center in North Albina, Texas. I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this right now. What's giving me pause here is not what's going on. It's how is this going to be used as a weapon, right? How are the partisans going to use it as a weapon, right? This is a sword right here. What you have before you is a fucking sword, and one of them is going to be able to use it successfully to beat the fuck out of the other one. And I'm trying to figure out which one it benefits more and how well they're going to be able to use it. And honestly, the way it's being framed, like, blocks Trump administration from deporting foreign nationals under the Alien Enemies Act. So if you were to put this before normie Walmart Americans, and you were to say, oh, Amazing Bear, how you doing, buddy? And you were to say, the court blocked is trying to take away executive power from Trump so that he cannot deport any illegal aliens, even though this order appears to only block these specific aliens. Do you remember I keep saying, man, that ad, you know, Kamala Harris is not for you, she is for they them, or whatever however the fuck they phrased it. I mean, I believe that if the people who are the partisan hacks on the right are smart enough, this is going to be their sword right here. And the weird part about it is that the framing is already there. It's already been created by the juxtaposition of God damn it. Stop it. The framing has already been created by the juxtaposition of the Democrats screaming bloody murder over the Trump admin deporting an illegal alien who was wrongfully deported, but them doing the Maryland man hoax. That's what the right is now calling it. I don't know if I'd call it a hoax, but man, it really gets on my nerves when people do shit like that, because the dude's not a Maryland man. He is an unauthorized migrant. That's government speak for illegal alien, by the way. He's an unauthorized migrant who has lived in the United States illegally for decades, or just over a decade. Has been arrested associating with gang members. Whether he is one or not is up for debate. And the reason, that's the frame that the right is using, and it's a very effective one, especially when they're, you know, bringing out the mothers of freaking victims who are victims of illegal aliens. And like I said yesterday, like if the problem isn't solved, but they stop Trump from deporting people, we're going to get an El Presidente. That's what's going to happen. There's no question. It's going to happen. Because the thing about it is that the vast majority, the plurality of Americans support mass deportation, and a majority support deporting at least the criminal illegal aliens, i.e. people who continue to commit crime once they get here. And on that note, Akonai bringing out the trap card, making me trip all the fuck over it, making me lose all my train of thought. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you. Now, my dude, my bros, my homies, he has activated the most amazing trap card. It's called the simultaneous sip card, and all you got to do is grab that cup or mug or glass. Perhaps you have a tinker, chalice, or a stein, maybe a canteen, jug, or flask, a vessel of any kind. You fill it with your favorite fluid. I like the morning coffee. Deliciously, magnificently Tango made. So join me now, friends, for the glorious, the stupidosity, the absolute awesome sauceness that is the simultaneous sip. It's happening right freaking now. Go! Got to be gentle with that one. Ooh, don't want to burn myself again. Anyway, so that's the frame I see here. And don't get me wrong, the left, the blue team frame of, you know, oh, it's a huge win for freedom. Thank God for SCOTUS seeing reason. Like, the thing you got to remember is that everybody who is a partisan hack on either side will stretch the truth and lie as much as they possibly can. Use words to obfuscate things, right? It's like when people kept screaming, he has no criminal record. He has no criminal record. When he is a self-admitted unauthorized immigrant illegally living here, that is a crime, making him a criminal. That's why they say no criminal record, because you can't say he's not a criminal, right? And it's the same thing with the, oh, there's no evidence he was in MS-13. Or excuse me. Pardon me. Retract that. They say there's no proof he's in MS-13. No proof he's in MS-13. But the police report from when he was arrested, hanging around MS-13 gang members, allegedly, is that his clothes, he was not just wearing a Chicago Bulls hat and shirt. He was allegedly wearing a Chicago Bulls hat and shirt that had fucking gang symbol shit on it. And it's very detailed in what it says about the specifics of what part of it is the gang tattoos. Essentially, the presidents on the dollar bills having their eyes, ears, and or nose covered. No, eyes, ears, or noses covered, as in, or mouth, not nose, as in see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, which is apparently some symbology that specific gang uses. So there is evidence that he's wearing gang stuff, right? There is evidence that he was a member of the MS-13 gang from the confidential informant. That's what you call evidence. Regardless of the efficacy of the evidence, that's how good it is. Regardless of that, there is evidence. It may be bad. It may be fraudulent. The cops may have completely lied. That's entirely true. Cops do that on occasion, if you don't, you know. But that's regardless of the point. It's that this is the thing. Imagine this was something where the cops were like arresting a supposed alleged white supremacist. Would they be so kind as to be like, oh, there's no proof that he was hanging around with neo-Nazis? Oh, you know, he has no criminal record. Do you think they'd be doing the same thing? Like, this is the thing. Some of them would. I imagine Wick would. The man right here. I watch this show on occasion, and the last one was pretty good. Good dude. He does not genuflect to partisan hackery, so far as I know. He, in fact, does not have music capture media made of vinyl that has crimes in it. There you go. So, the second level of that joke just hit me. It took a second. It's about using language to obfuscate. That's really what this boils down to. And I wonder how they're going to stretch this, because I mean, they've already got the frame up, right? They've already got the frame that they're deporting criminal illegal aliens / unauthorized migrants. And the blue team seems to completely just genuflect extremely hard using language that obfuscates what is going on. Now, the right is doing this as well. The administration, most specifically, when they were talking about the court order and when they were talking about how he is an actual MS-13 gang member, when they're right, there is no proof he is an MS-13 gang member, but there is a lot of evidence, the efficacy of which we do not know. Not only that, if an MS-13 gang member, let's do a hypothetical. If Garcia were actually an MS-13 gang member and he were picked up by ICE, and then he were going to be deported, do you think he would lie to the deportation judge and make up a story about how he would use the common story about people being extorted by the gang unless a member of their family joins the gang. That's from what I understand, that's a common story heard from that part of the world. So is it not possible that if he is a gang member that he would have made up the story and been like, look, this is what they're doing to me, so that he could avoid deportation? Would that not be in his and the MS-13 gang's best interest for him to stay in the country, even if he had to lie about it? Do you think they give a fuck about lying? I mean, for real, especially to authorities. But that is a hypothetical, assuming he is one. So my question is, what's the difference between innocent Garcia, who is only here illegally and is not part of a gang, and gang member Garcia? Well, as far as the story goes, fucking nothing, because they both of them. One is true, the other is false, but under both circumstances, both individuals would probably use that story. The MS-13 gang member Garcia would absolutely use the story of this common thing that happens from where he's from as cover for be like, look, don't deport me. Let me stay here. Here's my story. Here's a story from, where I'm from that we do to people all the time. Here you go. And so they always go to, oh, he wasn't supposed to be deported. He had an order of withholding or whatever the fuck it's called. And it's like, yes, but why did he have the order of withholding? He had it because he told a story and the judge believed him. That's as simple as it is, right? Because it's not like the bro can like whip out paperwork that shows he was extorted by MS-13 and the El Salvadorian, people didn't do anything about it, right? It's not like he produced paperwork after immigrating here illegally, right? Come on now. You walk around around MS-13 in MS-13 get up and do not associate with MS-13. You get your shit pushed in. Garcia was in fact not beaten to a pulp. Yes, but but see, what you're doing is you're assuming that the cops are telling the truth, right? And we know cops lie. So it could be possible that the cops were embellishing the fact that he had all that shit on him and they just assumed he was wearing, like, imagine this. Here's another hypothetical. Innocent Garcia is walking down the street. He's wearing a Bulls jersey. He's wearing the Bulls cap. It doesn't have any of that bullshit on it that the cops said it does. And then because he's here and he's a Latino from El Salvador, the local MS-13 gang members have him in their sights to extort him, to either join the gang or pay them off so he doesn't have to, right? And so the reason he may be associating with them may be the fact that that he is a victim being criminally mistreated by these individuals, and he just happens to be a Chicago Bulls fan, right? And he's not actually wearing their regalia. It's just that. It's entirely possible that serendipity in this situation, it could explain exactly what the fuck is going on. And this is the problem I have with the discussion around all these things, is that almost nobody talks about any of these things. There are like 15 different universes we could be living in, and people are only talking about 3. And it bugs the fuck out of me, because there's all different various levels of this, right? He could have, like, literally, think about this. He could have, the story of his family being extorted, unless he joined MS-13, could be true. And he could have fled El Salvador to avoid being recruited into the gang. That could be true. Now, he immigrates to the United States illegally, making him a criminal, but he doesn't do any other crime yet. He stays here for a little while, and we have several possibilities that could happen. So he could have joined MS-13 gang after he got here because they found out who he was, and they told the MS-13 back in his fucking hometown, and they fucking threatened to kill his family unless he joined. Boom. That's how you get an MS-13 gang association right there. And him being actually in the gang. Conversely, one of the reasons these individuals could have been criminally extorting him, meaning that he wasn't part of the MS-13 gang, is they were threatening his family back home because they found out who the fuck he was, right? They still have access to his family. They still live in El Salvador, right? Unless they're all fucking locked up, which is entirely possible at this point anyway. But so there are many different levels of variation at which he could have been associating with MS-13 and not been a part of the gang, and he could have been a victim. His family could have been a victim. That's all. That could all be possible. Or it could be both. They could have been a victims and he joined later because they were going to victimize his family, or he joined later because he didn't have a choice because he couldn't find good work and so he needed money. There could be any number of fucking reasons why he was associating with these dudes. Some of them involve him being a part of the gang. Some of them being associated with the gang, i.e., he's working with but not for, working for but not with. Like you're not a part of the gang, but you go to them and they give you work kind of deal. You know what I'm talking about, right? Where you're not an actual member, but they'll throw you a couple bucks if you do some shit, right? That kind of thing. It's entirely possible that's what was going on, and that's why he was hanging around them motherfuckers. And again, it could be possible that the police were just fucking lying about his jersey, right? And it could be possible that both the cop was lying about his jersey and the confidential informant was lying about the fact that he was a low-ranking entry member into the gang who had not yet killed somebody to become a full member. So, funnily enough, if he was an MS-13 gang member, deporting his ass might have saved someone's life. If it's true that they have to kill people to get in. I think it is. So again, there's 15 different fucking universes we could be living in, and we're only talking about 3. Okay, so this order, you know what? Let's, we were on Politico, right? Okay. The men have been given terse deportation notices and were being loaded on buses, presumably headed to the airport. Road and emergency appeals. Okay, so these men were given a terse deportation order. So the Trump administration in this instance was following the procedure and they were given notices to deport. So far as that reads, that's what I'm reading from that. That I might be mistaken, because it doesn't say that they had a their quote day in court before they were. Especially if they're not criminals, the Alien Enemies Act requires them to be put before a judge or justice. It literally fucking says that, unless they're an actual criminal. So if they're all here illegally, well, then they don't have to have a day before a judge. The only reason Garcia deserved a day before a judge as part of his due process was because he had an order of withholding. I keep forgetting what it's called. Withholding of removal. Withholding of removal. That's what he had. That's why his due process was violated, is because he had an order that prevented him from being being deported. There we go. President Donald Trump has deployed the alien enemies out war power. Blah 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 blah. Justices said anyone labeled an alien enemy by the Trump administration must be given notice and meaningful opportunity to contest. Yeah, this is true. This is true. This is the Alien Enemies Act right here. This is what it says. However, if they are a criminal, I don't believe they are. Yeah. So, and so that if they're an illegal, I do not believe that they do. I don't know, though. I would need more clarification on that. I'm probably wrong on that. Because you can't just pick up somebody and then just deport them, right? So the due process would have to be at least verification that they are who they are, that they are an illegal alien, and like, oh, you're an illegal alien? Well, get the fuck out of here. I think that has to be the way it goes. Yep. Okay. At an emergency hearing on Friday, not aware of any current plans. They reserve the right to remove people tomorrow, notably. Okay, none of this has to do. The Supreme Court anticipated the ruling would be ignored like this. So the deportation notices were given to the Venezuelan nationals detained in Texas. Those notices, he said, do not appear to comply with the Supreme Court's requirement that detainees be given meaningful due process. Oh, okay. So they're not following the procedure. Okay, so there we go. So now we've got the meat of it. So the administration is not following the procedures as well. So the notices are supposed to be appearances in court, right? For deportation court. So the thing about it is that it does, the Alien Enemies Act does allow the administration the ability to round these motherfuckers up to bring them to court. So, yeah. I mean, you could literally just have a courtroom full of these motherfuckers and just go through each of their paperwork. Oh, you're an illegal alien? Okay, you get deported. You're an illegal alien? You get deported. You're an illegal alien? You get deported. Oh, you immigrated here illegally? You immigrated here illegally? Okay, we're going to set that one aside. Illegal alien? All right, get out of here. But declined to issue a restraining order to halt the deportations over the weekend. He said he had no authority to do so under different parts of the Supreme Court April 7th ruling, which mandated that challenges to the deportations under the Alien Enemies Act must be filed in the jurisdictions where the individuals are detained. Lovely. This is all blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's look at the order. This is the application, punitive detainees, Justice Thomas and Alito. Oh, this is it? Oh, he hasn't. Oh, dude. There hasn't been a... Yeah, see, facilitate. But but this is the thing. What would Trump need to do to satisfy the courts? Okay, so all of this just happened in my head. I apologize I wasn't talking. So the Thomas hasn't issued his opinion yet. That's fine. I thought he had. And then so basically what they're contending is that they filed an emergency order because they're not giving them their day in court. They're not giving them the due process. And so these 130 individuals. No. How many is in this group? It doesn't look like there's a number. But anyway, there's a group of Venezuelans that are set to be deported, and they were given notices, but no day in court, I guess. Yeah, so people are screaming about a constitutional crisis stemming from the administration's attempt to evade orders related to deportations. The court ordered him to facilitate the return, or excuse me, facilitate the return of Garcia for his due process. And they had to strike effectuate and send it back to the lower court for definition. So because the word included in the sentence may exceed the power of the court in the executive's ability to access his power. And so my question is, when it concerns Abrego Garcia, so when it concerns Garcia, when they say that the admin refused to facilitate the return, Garcia is an El Salvadorian citizen. Once he is handed over to the El Salvadorians, he is on their sovereign land and is a citizen of their country. So, what actions would Trump have to do to follow this order? What, literally, like Trump himself, what would he have to get? What orders would he have to give to his staff to be able to be in line with the Supreme Court's order? What could he have done? Because if El Presidente says fucking no, what are you going to do? If Trump, are we to send planes and demand he be given back? Is that what Trump needs to do? And what if they don't allow them to land? What you're talking about is you're talking about playing a game that is an interesting one, I'll bet, but it has put Trump in a trap, and that is a pretty good one, I might add. Is that Trump legally, as far as I understand, can't do shit about Garcia being in fucking El Salvador. That's his home country, and he is being held by the authorities in his home country. If they think he's an MS-13 gang member, it doesn't matter what courts here have ruled. It doesn't matter that he had no criminal record here. This is their justice system. You don't get to dictate what their justice system says. We don't get to dictate that, right? So my question is, what actions would satisfy the court's order for him to facilitate Garcia's return? So if Trump had just gone on national television or tweeted out or what the fuck ever, hey, El Presidente, you mind sending Dude Bro back so we can give him his due process and strip him of his withholding order so we can send his ass back to you? Would that satisfy it? Would the action of asking satisfy? What other actions would be needed if asking was not enough? So if El Presidente said no, he's an illegal gang member, as he said when he was here. You know, I think he called him a fucking terrorist, but we don't even need to get into that. The point is that his justice system, the one from his home country, believes he is not okay, and he needs to be held. Okay, regardless of whether it's right or wrong, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the jurisdictions here. So what is Trump to do? What is he? What action would be required of him by the court? Does he have to go himself to plead like the senator did? Is that what he has to do? And again, what if he says no? You can't have him. And because you know El Presidente would say something along, you know, we can't in good conscience give you a terrorist, no matter how politically demanding it is in your country. This is the right thing to do, and that's what we're going to do. So no, we're not giving him back to you. What is President Trump to do then? Like, would this Supreme Court order require him to commit acts that may be considered aggression or warlike? Is that what we're to do? Are we to sanction them? Is that what the president is to do? Is that the action that he is to take? How far does it go? Like, here's the question. Let's take it to its fucking logical conclusion. If El Presidente says no, is the president allowed to use military force to extract him? Is that what the court is how should I put this? The court said he needs to facilitate this. Well, what does that mean? How far does it go? Does it mean that if he asks and El Presidente says no, does that mean he is required to up the ante? Is he required to keep using more and more and more desperate means to include things like sanctioning, blockading, potentially using military action on El Salvadorian soil to retrieve this man? Is that what we're saying that the Supreme Court is ordering him to do? If we can't get him back any other way, right? Now everybody would deflect immediately and be like, "Oh, he's his best friend. Of course he'd give him." And it's like, no, you're missing the point. What you're doing is you're using logic on this. Logic doesn't apply here in this way. Logic applies in this way. If they are really boys and they are really friends, they already have an agreement with one another. So if Trump goes on, tweets out and asks him to do it, he's just going to say no because he knows that Trump doesn't want to fucking return him. So he'll just refuse because he knows there's nothing that Trump can do. There's nothing that Trump can do. What is he, like I said, what's he going to do? Fucking send a SEAL team to fucking extract his ass from that goddamn Supermax prison? So he just say no. And guess what? Their friendship will be just fine, I bet. I bet it won't even cause a chink. The gangs have a lot of occult practices. The structure of gang culture is not too different. Yeah. Gang and cult culture is not too different. Yeah. Well, a lot of that stems from their ability to it's a, how should I put this? It's an organizational way to structure that allows you to create small, efficient cells that can operate pseudo independently. So yeah, it's a pretty good one. The president put a hold on potential second wave of deportations. Is this the same article? Yes. Okay. So there you go. And again, like I said, there is a world. We're talking like, especially with Garcia's case, we're talking like 15 different universes here. And we're only talking about 2. Where he could have not been an MS-13 gang member when he left and become an MS-13 gang member while he was here. He could have been a victim of these individuals. There could be any number of reasons why he had all of this circumstantial shit around him being that way. It's really something else as well in the fact that he is a domestic abuser, apparently. Unless his wife is filing false police reports. But, you know, it's just one of those things that's just like, none of this matters so far as he should have had due process before he was deported, i.e. he should have been sent before a judge so that they could remove his withholding of removal and then have him deported. But it is an interesting juxtaposition that we find ourselves in, because you can tell that the blue team knows that the morality of the person who is being affected means something in the eyes of the public. And you know this because of how much they obfuscate the evidence that he was a criminal, the evidence that he was a gang member, the evidence that the proof that he was an actual criminal, because, you know, he admitted so in deportation court, and that's how he was able to not get deported, is that he actually was a criminal because he immigrated here illegally, and that he's a wife beater. And that's why they call him a Maryland sheet worker or Maryland dad, because they know the language works. If you frame it in a way where he's just an innocent Marylander, people lose their shit. But you frame it in a way, oh, he's a wife-beating, MS-13 gang-associating illegal immigrant, most people are not going to give a fuck, dude. They really are not. Oh, really? Again? My mouse doesn't want to work. Okay. There we go. So, this right here is 100% how I feel about this. So, apparently the White House put out this bullshit right here. The origin of the COVID, which used repeatedly to public health officials and the media to discredit the lab leak theory, was promoted by Dr. Fauci to push a preferred narrative that COVID-19 originated naturally. And then they list a bunch of bullshit. We're not really going to go through it because, of course, it's propaganda. So, yes, you should know what kind of propaganda they're putting out. But I don't want to. I've already had too much shit in my brain, literal, 100% grade A bovine excrement. I don't need this right now. But we're gonna touch on it because the point is not about this, right? The point is this: show me lawsuits and convictions against people who are apparently guilty. Until then, it's just propaganda. Bingo, right there. Unfortunately, we can't do anything about Fauci because he got a pardon. I think didn't he get pardoned? That may be fake news. I'm pretty sure he got pardoned for whatever crimes he may have done. And for those bitching about Biden pardoning people, this is exactly what pardons were made for. You may not like the fact that he pardoned them. That's irrelevant. The fact is, the founding fathers knew that people were evil bastards and would absolutely use their political power to persecute their enemies, especially the ones that would politically challenge them. Because even if you are a relatively good person, you can see how certain people can be brainwashed into believing absolutely absurd shit. And if you are propagandized in a certain way, then you can, if you're selectively given certain information and withheld other information, you can come to believe something that's entirely untrue and potentially believe that somebody is guilty of something when they're not because of that. So you could be technically a victim, of propaganda, and believe that this individual is guilty and therefore needs to be punished, and then you go on a witch hunt for it, and you did so mistakenly. And so both of those reasons are why pardons exist, is because people with power do crazy shit to each other, and then the founding fathers knew they would do this, and so they cut it off at the knees. Because you can't have a functioning government where the political party in power can openly persecute, their political opponents and members of their family. And so if you do stuff during your administration and you know that the other team is going to persecute you and your family for some of the stuff that you've done that probably isn't criminal, right? Or even if it is criminal, it's like low level, like, oh, you pay $100 fine for this dumb shit, right? Because when you're in the machinations of power, it's really easy to break a regulation and you not even realize it. And if you don't think so, you've never read a reactor plant manual. Pardons were made so they could cut this shit off right at the knees. That's exactly why they exist. Which is why Hunter Biden and everybody was giving it to them, because obviously they were going to do this. They said they were going to do it. And so here we are. And I agree. This is the same thing with Doge. They're talking about all the fraud and shit. Well, where are all the people committing fraud? Name, if you cannot persecute them because they were pardoned, name them. Name who they are. Tell the entire world who the fraudsters are that took our tax money and spent it on bullshit. All right, so I think that's all we're going to do